All right, hello and welcome to week 2 of your breakthrough year. Hopefully by now you've taken some time to set your objective for 2018, to begin with the end in mind, and to think in great detail about what it is that you want to accomplish. In today's video, I'm going to share with you something very important, something that's going to be really fundamental to you being able to actually accomplish the goal that you set for yourself in last week's review. So today we're going to talk about standards and we're going to talk about commitments. This is extremely important. I can promise you that if you underestimate this particular video and you try to skip over it and say, man, Uzziah, where's the technical stuff at? Where's the life hacks? Show me how to be able to do 10 billion things in 2 seconds flat. If you have that mindset and you reject the stuff that comes out of this video, it's only going to slow down your progress. It's only going to impede your journey to the finish line. And so I want you guys to really understand the significance of how your life will be different once you have different standards and once you understand the importance of commitment. So let's start off with this. I want you to realize that being successful in any industry, at anything, it doesn't just come down to being skilled at something. I know we always talk about the importance of having a great skill set, how your skills is what's appreciated in the marketplace, but really take a moment to think about someone that you may know right now who is extremely skilled, but for one reason or another, they're not getting out of life what they should. Maybe they're not making the money that they really should be making. Maybe they haven't tapped into the true potential that they could reach. Those issues are not a matter of skill. I want to divert your attention now to focus on the significance of standards. Because oftentimes in this life, we get out of life whatever our standard is. You may have a certain skill set, and your skills right now may be proficient for the job that you need to do, or you could be a little bit further behind. In either case, right now, that's okay because we're focusing on raising your standard, which in turn will give your skill more relevance and more value. So when you think about a standard, right? Everybody has them. Everybody has financial standards. Everybody has relationship standards. People have social standards. People have spiritual standards. And those standards, whether you know it or not, dictates the quality of your life, right? Here's something that I want you to be able to do. I want you to be able to set higher standards because you need to be able to have higher expectations of yourself. So I give you like a real life scenario on not having high standards and what that looks like in your life. So everything in your life right now is the reflection of your standards. The amount of money that you have in your bank account right now is simply a reflection of your standards. You may feel as though, I'm not making enough money. But whatever dollar amount is in your bank account right now is a reflection of the standards that you actually live by. And maybe you don't know that. Hopefully by the end of this video, you will. Your body, whether you're in shape, whether you're not in shape, whether you're in good health, whether you're physically fit, all of those things are a result of your standards. Your diet has a standard. Your exercise regimen and routine has a standard, right? Your physical physique, how you look, how you feel about yourself. All of these things are based upon standards. It's not just something that happens by magic. Nobody's, coming out of the womb looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody's popping out of the womb looking like a swimsuit model. These are all a reflection of standards that people have about themselves. And in the process of them actually working and living through their standards, you see it actually played out in their life. Okay? So what I need you to do, if you're really trying to be successful in this year and making this your breakthrough year, is you've got to be able to up your standards. Maybe right now you've written down on your objective statement that this is the year you want to be able to make 6 figures. Or you may realize that you had a business and you may want to make 7 figures over time in terms of revenue. Is that your standard, right? You could wish it all day, but is it a standard that you actually live by? Because if it's a standard, what that means is you're going to find yourself performing a series of actions, having a series of habits, doing things in the norm where you find yourself operating at a pace where you don't have no choice but to be able to live within those standards. Imagine if you found yourself getting into a relationship and the person that you were interested in fell significantly below the standards that you have on what you would look for out of a partner. Now, would you move forward with that person in a relationship? Absolutely not. Why? Because of the fact that you have higher standards. So the things that you accept in your life today, whether it's your job, the food that you eat, the money that you make, the people that you surround yourself around, the circumstances that you find yourself in, whether you know it or not, all of these things is just a summary of all of the life circumstances that you've chosen to accept because of the fact that those things are reflective of your standards. So if you have a goal and you're not there yet, well, what has to change first? Do you change your skill set first? Does life change itself to you first? Or do you change your standards so that way everything else can fall into place? I would argue that it really should go without saying that it's your standard that has to change above all. Because one of the things that I really want you to think about and internalize in this week's lesson is to remember your personal thermostat. What do I mean when I say that? Your personal thermostat. So in every house, at least in the first world, right? First world problems, you've got your thermometer and you've got your thermostat. The thermometer, it just lets you know the temperature that's inside the house. It's going to tell you whether it's hot. It's going to tell you whether it's cold. It's not going to discriminate on anything. It doesn't have any emotions. It doesn't have any feeling. It's just there to reflect to you the temperature that's within your environment, which is your house. But then you have a thermostat. And with this thermostat, the thermostat will actually dictate what the temperature of that room will be in the house. So let's say, for example, it's a hot summer day and the thermometer is saying that it's 82 degrees. You set the thermostat to 75 degrees, right? When you set that thermostat to 75 degrees, it's going to get hotter in the house or it's going to get colder in the house. If you got a good AC system and not no ghetto ratchet system, you're going to actually feel the temperature drop in the house, right? The environment will find itself adapting to the new standard that you've imposed for the temperature in your house. But if it's, let's say, 70 degrees in the household, and you only have the AC set to 75, you don't want it to heat up, it's just cooling down, well then guess what? Nothing is going to change. So I want you to understand that temperatures can be modified based upon how you set your thermostat. And for every single one of us, we have an internal thermostat when it comes to our life. In your life, you have a financial thermostat. So your financial thermostat may be $50,000, let's just say. So in your life, you will say, okay, well, my thermostat is $50,000. And a lot of times it's subconscious, whether you know it or not. So you will weave your resume in such of a way that you set yourself right there at a prime position to get a $50,000 job. You will look for jobs where the salary is being solicited as having $50,000. If there's a job that's below $50,000, you may not settle for it. You feel like you must take this job that's within that $50,000 category. That's not magic. That's where your thermostat is at. Or on the flip side, let's talk about your bank account, right? Your personal checking. Let's say right now that you have $1,000 sitting in the checking account, right? And maybe the way that you've always grown up, you've always, whenever you've seen money in the account, you felt like you had to spend it. It's your personal thermostat talking. So if there's $1,000 in the account, but you only feel comfortable when the temperature is $100, guess what you're going to do? You're going to find a way to be able to spend $900 as quickly as you can, no matter how much money you bring in to take you back to that $1,000. You're going to completely, constantly find yourself going back to that $100 because that's where your thermostat lies. And for a lot of us growing up in certain backgrounds, it was $0 in that checking account. If we had any money in the checking account, it had to go. Okay? So you got to take a second to really sit back and think and analyze yourself and really meditate on, well, what are my standards? Where's my thermostat? Where do I feel that my life is taking me based upon the things that I find myself committed to? You know what other thing? That's what I want to be able to segue into the next part of this video, to really be able to get you to understand that if you want to be able to accomplish anything, your goals, your dreams, your wishes, your ambitions, you're going to need to switch from having a wish and just having a goal, because everybody, kind of adapts towards the word goal. You need to start turning these things into a commitment, because the things that you find yourself committed to are the things that we often tend to actually get out of life. Think about your relationship right now. Let's say that you're married. Let's say that you have a spouse, or you're in some type of a serious relationship. If you find yourself in a situation where, you've got some things that you really want to be able to accomplish in your relationship, are you going to get there just by wishing that the relationship is better? No, it's not going to happen like that. The only way that your relationship is going to get better is actually if you make an actual commitment to it, right? It's a commitment. It's a process. It's a day-to-day discipline that you've got to put yourself 100% on, in hopes that your spouse and your partner is going to put themselves 100% into commitment in order for things to actually work. If you got a spouse and that spouse has maybe an alcohol problem and you want them to be able to fix that alcohol problem, well, would you wish that they want them to just have that alcohol problem go away? Do you want to say, hey, babe, I really wished that you would wish to be able to get rid of your alcohol problem? Wishing doesn't really do that much. Or on the flip side, would you want them to be committed to being able to overcome those alcohol problems? Because when they become committed, what could commitment mean in that context? Well, commitment could mean that maybe they sign up for Alcoholics Anonymous. Maybe that mean that they, change the people that they hang around. They don't hang around as many drinkers. Maybe that could mean that they form new habits. They adopt new things to do whenever they feel the impulse to just go on this binge drinking spree. When they find themselves committed to it, they're going to start performing a series of tasks and actions that's going to actually ensure that they stay committed to carrying out that goal every single day. So the question is, when it comes to you and your goals and your results, your dreams, is what you're committed to simply just a wish or something nice to have? or are you committed to it? So I'll give you an example. If you have a goal and the goal is to be able to start up a business and you say to yourself, well, I know the average CEO reads about a book a week. I'll read when I feel like reading. Is that a commitment? Or when it comes to learning, is it just something that you would like to do? Right? If you're just kind of moving at your own pace and you're not really pushing yourself to get better, when you want to do it, you will. When you don't, you won't. That's not commitment. That's something that you want to happen, but we don't get out of life what we want. We get out of life who we are. We don't get out of life the things that we want to happen. We get out of life the things that we have already committed ourselves to knowing must happen. So if you want to be able to accomplish any goal, you've got to be able to shift your actions and your behavior from this would be nice to have to this is a must and I am committed to it. So I want you to take a brief moment before we move forward. I want you to be able to just think about the different goals that you have. For some of you guys, it's to get a better job. For some of you, it's to start a business. For some of you, it's to be able to, maybe grow your business, get going on social media, have a new website, do all these different things. Think about your time, your actions, how you view that goal, and think about it under the lens of would be nice to have and shoulds versus this must get done, and it becomes a commitment and it becomes a standard. Think about how you perform your tasks and what category it really falls under. And I promise you, if you're being very, very honest with yourself, I can guarantee you that when it comes to how you manage your time, how you work past difficulties, when you are procrastinating, you don't really feel up to it, you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling tired, just don't feel in the mood to do it. I guarantee you, if you're being honest with yourself, which you should be doing as a part of this program, you'll come to realize that many of the things that you've always wanted to accomplish are just wants, and they're not real musts because you're viewing it as something that would be nice to do or something that should get done rather than a commitment that must be executed upon. Think about this again. We don't get out of life the things that we want. We're going to get out of life the things that we find ourselves committed to. And once you become committed to something, the only way that you're going to be able to uphold that commitment is if you make it a standard. Okay? So I'm going to say this again. Let's say that for myself personally, right? If I have a goal where I want to be able to make $100,000, if that is a standard in my life, that means that I'm going to do something every single day to ensure that I'm making $100,000. If I'm not making $100,000, then that means I'm making drastic changes, because making less than $100,000 is not connected with my identity. If my identity, which is associated with my standard, is focused only on $100,000 or more, then subconsciously I'm going to keep moving myself in a direction every single day that's going to be geared towards making $100,000. There's no way that you can have an extremely lofty goal but very poor standards. Doesn't work that way. Anytime that I've been in front of any of my professional mentors that have made millions and millions and millions of dollars, one of the things that I've always noticed is that their standards were much higher than that of the average person. So when one of my regular friends who really doesn't care about money and really just kind of takes life as it goes, thinks about making some money or doing something in a business, they're willing to talk to anybody on the phone in order to make some money. They'll talk, have a 30-minute conversation, hour-long conversation, however long it takes. If some money is behind it, they'll get on the phone with someone to be able to make some money. When I speak with some of my multi-million-dollar mentors, what do they say? They say, Uzziah, I wouldn't get on the phone with someone to be able to make a sale unless that person was paying me $5,000 or more. That's their standard. They have a standard on how much they value their time. They have a standard on how much they value their time in relation to money. They have standards about what actually is fulfilling for them. If we don't have higher standards, then we're just going to be able to settle for whatever life throws at us. And unfortunately, when you think about your boss, when you think about other people, they really don't have a lot lined up for you by way of what they want you to be able to get out of life. Okay? So I want to be able to end it on this note. I'm not going to keep us on here all day. I really want you to think about this. If your standard changes, then quite naturally, your environment is going to change. Have you ever tried to go on a diet and you got really healthy, you tried to get really fit, really good shape, and then you go out to eat with a bunch of people that's not caring about their diet at all? Have you ever noticed that despite how good your diet was prior to them, you see everybody sitting around the table, they're eating whatever they want, they're kind of peer pressuring you to eat whatever you want. You're trying to fit in. You don't want to be like that weird person, that black sheep at the table that's just off doing some other stuff while everybody's doing another thing. So what happens is the standard that you once have to be able to uphold a certain diet, you lower it just a little bit, or in some cases a lot of it, depending upon what they're eating. You lower those standards to be able to appease the people that are around you. And you find yourself doing this for so long, that lowered standard and that lowered expectation, it becomes a norm and it becomes a habit in your own personal diet. Because everybody around you is going for one thing, so quite naturally you go for that one thing. If you want to be able to have high standards, you've got to be able to surround yourself with people that have higher standards. So you can't be around people that have no standards in life. You can't be around people that just takes life as it comes and expect to get yourself to a whole nother level while you're just hanging around with people that just takes life as it comes. It doesn't work like that. I know this is a part of the emotional hard truths that people don't want to deal with. Oh, I just can't have any friend. Oh, I just can't do this. Oh, I just can't do that. I can't just make the success about me. Life doesn't work like that. If it were that easy, everybody would be successful. It was that easy. Every successful millionaire person, billionaire person, or even it's not about the money, people that are successful in many other arenas. If life was as simple as you reaping the benefits of hard work, regardless of who you had in your circle, there would have never been a time in history where someone would have had to leave their friends at the door so that way they could go and actually pursue a greater vision. These are just the realities of life. So if you're serious about raising your standards, I guarantee you, your environment is going to change. If your environment doesn't change, are you really serious about having higher standards? Because the only way that you can really elevate your standards is if you surround yourself with people that have standards that are so high and they're reaping the benefits of that you feel uncomfortable even being around in their presence. So it forces you to be able to elevate your game. You've got to be able to get this down. This is so mission critical. In today's homework, I want you to be able to do two things. I want you to be able to, first and foremost, let me know what are going to be your new standards as it pertains primarily to the goal that you set out to accomplish. Maybe it's financial standards. Maybe it's standards about, how seriously you take your work, how many hours that you work in a day, all the things that leads to you reaching your goal, all the standards that are associated with you reaching that goal. I want you to take the time to think about the standards that goes into it, right? Think about me as a speaker, right? That speaks to people at a professional level, a business consulting level. Just like I'm telling you to have standards, I have standards. So if I'm speaking in front of an audience of people, am I just going to just say anything and half-ass it? Or am I going to come with a certain level of value? Am I going to speak with a certain level of confidence? Am I going to raise a certain level of conviction? All because of the fact that those attributes are reflective of my standards. So I expect myself to be able to deliver at a high level when I produce work and produce results every single time. I want you to be able to identify what are your standards that's going to lead to your success. And then coupled with that, what I want you to be able to do is I want you to think about the self-limiting beliefs that you have that's going to be a hindrance to you actually reaching those standards. So you could say, oh, you know what, Uzziah, this assignment is easy. I'm just going to set for myself a new standard that if I'm not making $100,000 a year, that's below my pay grade. That's below my standards. Yeah, you could say that, and it could sound good. But what if you have a self-limiting belief that because of the fact that you come from a certain background, or because of the fact that, you represent a certain minority, or a certain gender, you feel as though you're always supposed to be in poverty? What if that's your self-limiting belief? How is that going to sabotage you being able to live through this newly developed standard that you have for yourself at every turn? It's important that right now you really take the time to identify all of the self-limiting beliefs that maybe you haven't told anybody else before. I want you to be bold enough to tell me now. If you love yourself enough to help you become successful, this assignment is so very important. It's so very key. I'm going to give you an example for me of a self-limiting belief that I had before I started going down this journey of helping people like you become successful. Me growing up, being born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, I never believed that I would be someone worthy of being compensated for having anything valuable to be able to impart upon another person. So when I saw people from other demographics and other communities coming out with these programs and putting together all of these other things that, they had value, but I looked at it and said, well, I could deliver that same level of value. And I could deliver that same level of value, but it wasn't a standard for me to accomplish things the way that it was for them, because I had a self-limiting belief that said to me, Uzziah, you're a young black man that comes from little to nothing. Who are you to think that you could have any value to give to a person and charge for it? Who are you to think that, because of the fact that you just went to college and you made it out of this neighborhood, that now that's going to have you placing yourself in a position where you're going to be making the exact same amount of money as people that come from other communities that came into life with twice the resources that you had, twice the opportunities? Who are you to think that, Uzziah? That was my self-limiting belief. And so despite the level of skill that I had, despite whatever intelligence that God afforded to me, because of the fact that I had these self-limiting beliefs, it slowed down my progress. It slowed down my success because I was getting in my own way. I want you to now take the time to think about your own self-limiting beliefs. Think about the goal that you just set for yourself last week. Think about the standards that are needed that one has to have in order to accomplish that. Think about those standards. Start to think about how you could apply those standards in your own life. But then I want you to think about the self-limiting beliefs that you have right now that will never allow those standards to really be a sincere part of you. You could say it out loud. You try to get other people to believe it. You could sound good in the business rooms and the coffee talks and the masterminds and this and that at the conferences. But you in your heart of hearts knows that you don't really believe this because that's not really a standard, because you're limited by your own invisible behaviors that pull you back. Write your standards, write your self-limiting beliefs, and then I want you to write down what you're going to be doing to overcome these self-limiting beliefs now that you've taken stock of yourself professionally and have recognized that these things are getting in the way. I'm going to tell you this right now. For some of you guys, your self-limiting belief may be, well, nobody else in my community is doing this. How can I do it? Your self-limiting belief may be, oh, well, I didn't go to college, so how can I be that smart? Your self-limiting belief may be, well, because I come from a certain demographic, because I'm black, because I'm this, because I'm that, or maybe because I have these spiritual beliefs, maybe it's not right for me in some type of a way to be able to have the amount of money that I desire. Maybe it's not right for me to achieve certain professional goals. Maybe I feel guilty in achieving certain professional goals because I know that me achieving these goals means that I'm going to leave my family, my friends, and loved ones that are close to me kind of behind because they're not operating at that level. And I'm afraid to leave the herd. It's going to make me feel like a bad person. I want you to write down whatever your self-limiting beliefs are, and I want you to be able to send it to me. Uzziah at iwannabesuccessful.com. Write down your self-limiting beliefs, how you're going to get over them. Identify with your standards. What would your standards be if you weren't so afraid of everyone else's judgment? Don't you kind of settle your standards because you don't want to be too bold? Don't you settle your standards because, you don't want to be like that person that's like that big high gunner that's like trying to be over everybody else? And so you think about what this person would think and what that person would say, or how it make you feel like, maybe you're not a good person because you're leaving other people in the dust. What would your standards be if you weren't afraid of other people's judgments? I want you to take some time to think about that and just send me your responses in an email. I'll read them, I'll review your assignment, and we'll talk about it in the next breakthrough call. Take care.